Hello, everyone. Hello, hello. Welcome to my YouTube page. My name is Miss Stephanie, and I teach piano, voice, and ukulele. And you can find lots of tutorials here. Today, we will be working on short story from Suzuki Piano Book 2. We've already done all of Book 1 and Echo 6 in Book 2. So today we're going to go ahead and start short story. So I am going to start this today by just going through and doing a playthrough for you. Now, this isn't found in Suzuki Book 2, but you can also find it anywhere. It's public domain at this point. But what I would like to make sure that you do is please number your measures so that when we go to do this and break it down, you'll know exactly where we are. Okay, so we are going to do a quick playthrough just so you can get it in your ears, and then we're going to break it down for you. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and break this down into small pieces for you. So I do like to start at the end. So we're going to go ahead and start in measures 25 and 26. Let's just go over those chords in the right hand. That's a C chord, first inversion. Okay, so we have E, G, and C. And that's coming off of just a C scale, starting in 22. Okay, so that's all that is in the right hand. Quite simple. 24 and 25 in the left hand, we start with C and E. Notice in measure 24, the C is repeated. Notice in measure 25, the C is repeated. That's the little tricky thing. Okay, measure 22. I'm going to start in measure 21 because where we're coming from is super duper important. Our hand, if you'll notice the little treble clef, G clef sign coming into measure 21. So your left hand is on middle C. Okay, you have your C chord, your G7 chord, C and E. And now we're in the bass clef. So our thumb goes where our pinky was. So we were on middle C and E. Now my thumb is going to take over that C. And it's E, G, C. And then move up one note to F, A, D. And then move up one more note, but then it's G, D, F. That's a big stretch, okay? So let's go over that again. We have C and E. Then your thumb moves to where your pinky was, and you have E, G, C. You move up one, F, A, D. And then the big chord, you move up one more, and it's G, D, F. And then the scale you already know, okay? All right, I would like to also start in measure 14. That's at the top of page 9. Let's go ahead and take that. Measure 14, we're starting on bass C, the C below middle C. We're doing a C scale. We stop on that middle C. And then in measure 15, we cross over with our third finger on D. C sharp, D, E, thumb under to D. Everything revolves around D in measure 15. So watch that again. We've done our scale. We landed on C. Now in measure 15, we cross over 3 to D, D, C sharp, D, E, thumb on D. So 3 on D, into that starting in measure 9 on page 8. We just have, so I'm just going to go over these scales with you and then it stops on that second part. So we have a C scale, a G scale, a C scale. So watch. C, G, C. So if you get used to doing this with your pinky, G, C. Okay? So that is measures 9 through 12. So you just do your C chord, a C scale with no sharps, okay? Just a C scale with a G scale with no sharps. Move it to the C, and then G, and then C, and then go all the way back down to G in measure 13. And then here we are in measure 14. We already know this. Cross over, cross under, and we are home. Very good. The only other really tricky part I want to show you, a couple little things. Measure 1, 5, 1, 2, 1, that's an F there. Don't mistake and play a D. Then this jumps down to F. That's a D minor chord. Because that's D, F, A, but we're down here, F, A, D, so we are in first inversion. And then G in measure 4. Measure 5, you do the same thing again, and then with the G7 chord. And okay, measure 7, this is a little tricky. That's not a G7 chord. So that's a regular G chord in measure 7. How funny, measure 7 doesn't have a 7. Okay, and then it moves down 1 to A, thumb on D, 2 on C, and then play it out on your G Alberti. That's the only tricky part there. That's all the left hand tricky parts. The rest of it is really quite simple. The right hand, pretty simple, straightforward. Measure 7. I'm going to go into measure 7 starting from the pickup to measure 5, the end of measure 4, the last beat of measure 4. So don't forget, stop and rewind as much as you need to go over all of that left hand stuff. Let me show you the right hand tricks. All right, the pickup to measure 5. Here we go. Be sure you're using wrist on that. 2, 3, 1, 4. That's a tied note. F sharp. Okay, so don't forget that G in measure 7 is a tied note, and you end on G in measure 8, the same identical G. So watch that again. We did this. I'm going to just play the last beat of measure 6. 2, 3, land on your thumb and come off it. Because there's a rest after you. Lead with your rest. 4 lands on G and holds for 1.5 beats because we have a quarter tied to an eighth. Let me show you that again. 2, 3, 1, 4, hold. Okay, then we go on to this. Traveling thirds, you use the fingers they give you. And then traveling 6. There's staccato. Traveling thirds again. Switch your fingers to 2 and 4, end on 3 and 1. And then I use 3 and 1, 2 and 1, 1, 2 and 4, and 1, 2 and 5. I keep my number 2 finger on D in measure 15. So in measure 14, I use 1 and 3 on C and E. And I keep 1 and 3 there. And then I use 1 and 2. And then I keep my 2 on D, and I use 1, 2, 4. And then I still keep my 2 on D and 1, 2, 5. Okay? The rest is pretty simple. Tied C. Okay, there you go. So those were all the tricks and twists and turns of short story. So I would go through this hand separate because there's a lot of little tricky fingerings that you need to get. I would learn that ending, learn the beginning, and then bring it together because the middle is real easy with all of those scales. Have a great time learning this. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Please comment. Tell me where you're from, what you're working on, maybe what you'd like to learn next. I'll be going through all of the Suzuki pieces, but I do some other tutorials as well. So feel free to comment, and I will see you the next tutorial, which will be The Happy Farmer by Robert Schumann. Bye, everyone.